Devil Venerable also wants to know. Chapter 56, Devil Venerable's Return. This person was Wenren He. He had asked Zhongli Qian to tell Yin Hanjiang that he would return after 1 year, an estimate that he came up with after repeated analysis. He thought it was enough, but only the heavens knew how it would actually turn out. There were some things he had no way of anticipating. He looked at the red stone in his hand and said quietly, "At least I got this." It wasn't a pointless trip. This stone was the second reason he entered the Sea of Blood. The Sea of Blood was a vital location in both abusive love affair, and the god of destruction. In abusive love affair, Wenren he died in the Sea of Blood after throwing a blood-red stone towards Bailey Qingmiao. Treating it as his parting gift, Bailey Qingmiao hid it on her body. The first time Yin Hanjiang tried to kill Bailey Qingmiao, he mistook Lu Xinyi for her, and the second time, as he pursued her as the ghost mask. He occasionally took off the mask and pretended to protect her, all in order to lure her to the Sea of Blood. At the time, the book's Yin Hanjiang was on the brink of victory. Bailey Qingmiao's strength was far below his, and there was no one near the Sea of Blood, so no one could possibly have come to the protagonist's rescue. Since victory was within his grasp, Yin Hanjiang purposefully let Bailey Qingmiao see the ghost mask. He wanted to kill Bailey Qingmiao as she was filled with despair while at the closest place to Wenren He. He had wounded Bailey Qingmiao and was about to yank out her soul in order to refine it into an everlasting lamp. With that red stone in hand, Bailey Qingmiao had fled to the edge of the Sea of Blood. Staring at the stone, she thought about how Wenren He had died to save her. Hearing Yin Hanjiang darkly tell her to accompany him in death, she said, "You're right. I owe Wenren He my life and ought to repay him with it, but it won't be at your hands." With that stone the size of a man's fist clasped in both hands, she leapt into the Sea of Blood. Within the sea, the stone unleashed a mystical radiance, protecting Bailey Qingmiao from the corrosive energy. From a seal at the depths of the Sea of Blood, a ray of light shot up to the surface, entering Bailey Qingmiao's body. As she merged with her divine nature, she inadvertently struck a blow against Yin Hanjiang as her divine power instantly disintegrating his soul. Only one wisp of his soul escaped. Clinging to its obsession, the wisp of soul returned to Xianyuan sect to hide within the burning sky drum, enduring for 1,000 years to finally become the burning sky immortal. The moment Bailey Qingmiao merged with her divine powers, she regained all memories of her past life. It turned out that she had hid the divine nature at the depths of the Sea of Blood. Her divine power was great and might be sought by greedy people, so the Sea of Blood Hell was the safest place to put it within the 3 realms. The power of chaos could incorporate all other energies, so it would be able to hide her divine power. And after Bailey Qingmiao gave up her divinity, she automatically hid it within the Sea of Blood again, wanting it to remain a secret forever. That red stone was never mentioned again until the end of the book. It was also never explained how it could protect Bailey Qingmiao within the Sea of Blood and allow her to obtain her divine powers before she was ready. The readers had been so mad at Bailey Qingmiao for giving up her divine power to follow her man that they couldn't think straight, so how could they have the mind to ask about the red stone? Thus, it became an unresolved issue. Wenren He had never understood how he'd managed this in the book. From the book's depictions, Wenren He had no prior knowledge of the divine powers before falling into the Sea of Blood, so how could he suddenly come up with a stone? The readers had all assumed it was a plot device that the author made up because she was stuck, but Wenren He didn't agree with this conjecture. Everything in this world was logical. Bailey Qingmiao's love for He Wenzhao, Wenren He or Zhongli Qian or Yin Hanjiang's love for Bailey Qingmiao, the unconditional loyalty of Zhongli Kuang and Sen Zhenqi showed toward He Wenzhao, and the Xiling Pavilion Master's willingness to be his wife all had reasonable explanations behind them. The red stone also couldn't appear out of nowhere. If there was no description of it at all in the book, then there was only one possibility. Wenren He could only obtain it at the moment he fell into the Sea of Blood, while he was still conscious. After reading The God of Destruction, Volume 3, Wenren he had more questions. First, who was the supposed god who slaughtered He Wenzeo's village? In the first volume, the blood demon deceived him into thinking it was Wenren he, while the third volume didn't mention it at all. Second, He Wenzeo had become a god in the third volume, yet never regained the memories of his past life. Only at the end, as he faced the divine nature, did he remember everything. How did that make sense? The readers had brought up these questions, too. However, everyone just said that the story was too long already and the author had forgotten the beginning. Wenren he understood that this was possible with a mortal's memory, but if the world was real, then there must be a cause behind these 2 points. It seemed everything was pushing Wenren he to go to the Sea of Blood. Thus, after preparing properly, he had entered the Sea of Blood willingly. So that was it. With the red stone in his hand, Wenren he understood everything. Reading through the revisions of the God of Destruction, he saw how Yin Hanjiang had snapped, and while using the burning sky drum, he scared He Wenzeo and the Shangqing sect leader into shutting themselves within their sect. Wenren he sighed slightly. It seemed Yin Hanjiang's madness after his death was impossible to prevent. The readers of the God of Destruction were flaming it in the comments, saying that the author was insane for revising a perfectly good harem novel into something like this, moving the immortal lord from the second volume into the first volume to terrorize the protagonist, turning his main wife into a man, letting his shime be kidnapped by the demonic cultivators for a year. Even Lu Xinyi kept avoiding He Wenzeo for some reason. A perfectly good protagonist had been kicked around by the villain and lost his wives and followers. It seemed like the author was taking revenge on society. Wenren he put away the God of Destruction and opened abusive love affair. He was in an unusual situation and needed to use Bailey King Miao's viewpoint to confirm the leadership of Xianyuan sect before he decided whether or not to go back. The revision used a good 30,000 words to describe how heartbroken Bailey Qing Miao was by He Wenzeo's act, how she didn't want to live on, how she sobbed even in her sleep. She seemed like a completely different person from the previous silly but pure-hearted protagonist. The comments here were cursing the author for getting back in her old habit of abusing the protagonist. Only when Yin Hanjiang woke Bailey Qing Miao and Zhongli Qian spoke his conjecture did the comments calm down. The 10 straight chapters of Wishing for Death made me so scared I almost didn't want to follow anymore, but when I was about to give up, somehow the author came up with such an amazing plot twist. This revision really is legendary. I knew with Zhongli Qian's brains around, everything would be fine. Xianyuan sect sure is crafty to take our Qian as a hall master. They really have an eye for talent. I feel a bit bad for our Qian. He's herding a bunch of cats and can't make them do anything. The brooding ghost cultivator fifth love interest has now become a little nanny, wiping down his martial elder and looking after his master, so good and obedient. I suddenly want to steal him away. Have I gotten old? Hold on a minute, was Qian's words telling us that there's a reason behind Bailey King Miao's blind love for the male lead? That she's being controlled by something. Anyone know who Shi Kangxin is? Has he been mentioned before? Why does it seem like he likes the MC? Shi Kangxin said. Bailey Qing Miao sucked away his sickness Ji while unconscious. Why is a good little female lead being described like some life-sucking demoness? I thought Daddy Wenren he had died like in the original story, but now Qian said there's a possibility that he survived. Will he come back? Will he explain everything after he does? How come this story doesn't seem like a masochistic romance anymore? It became a suspenseful mystery. Suspenseful mystery, I'm dying, adding in Yin Hanjiang will make it a horror suspense, ha 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 ha. No matter how the story changes, Yin Hanjiang still wants to slaughter the MC. When he was making motions at the little flower's face with his weapon, he really gave off the feeling of a horror story serial killer. I want to know just what relationship Wenren he and Yin Hanjiang have. How come Yin Hanjiang always goes dark after Wenren he dies? After scrolling through the comments for half an hour, the word that appeared the most was no. This story's title should be changed to The Readers Also Want to Know. *******. Seeing that the current leader of Xianyuan sect was still Yin Hanjiang, Wenren he let out a sigh of relief. With his current condition, if someone else were leading the sect, he'd find it difficult to act. Looking at the stone, he furrowed his brows slightly and put it and the books within a kinkan pouch. The moment the stone left his hand, the robe he wore slipped off his body. As if the person wearing them had vanished, the grey outer and white inner robe passed through Wenrenhe's body and gently landed on the ground. Though both his clothes had fallen, Wenrenhe still appeared to be wearing the black robe he had used to protect Yin Hanjiang. With a small sigh, he vanished into light and arrived at Xianyuan sect. The sect was protected by an array and anyone who wanted to enter had to either break it, defeat the gatekeepers, or secretly enter along with someone else. Of course, each member of Xianyuan sect had their own passcode to open it, so whenever someone entered, the guards instantly knew who they were. Wenrenhe used none of those methods. He passed through the barrier without being detected, without alerting anyone. He had to first find Yin Hanjiang and let him know he was alive. He had seen from the book that Yin Hanjiang had already chi deviated. It was the outcome Wenrenhe least wanted to see. He first came to Yin Hanjiang's room, which looked like no one had been in it for a long time. Thinking that Yin Hanjiang was now in command of Xianyuan sect, so he was probably staying in the sect master's room. Their rooms were only separated by a wall, so Wenrenhe directly passed through it, but he found no sign of Yin Hanjiang. When he went to the spiritual spring in the back mountains, he finally found Yin Hanjiang there. Yin Hanjiang sat silently by the spring, holding an empty wine cup. Dipping his head, he carefully put his lips on the cup's edge. He appeared normal for now. Wenrenhe let out a breath and called to him, "Sect leader Yin, this venerable one has returned." Yin Hanjiang didn't turn his head, acting as if he hadn't heard. Pouring wine into his cup, he threw it back in one gulp. End chapter. DeVe Venerable also wants to know. Chapter 57, This Venerable One Permits. Wenrenhe walked around to stand in front of Yin Hanjiang. Yin Hanjiang's face was flushed as a handkerchief was clutched in one of his hand. A jar of wine was set beside him, with the empty wine cup in his other hand and Wenrenhe's robe in his lap. "Sect leader Yin, isn't your alcohol tolerance low?" Wenrenhe asked. If a cultivator didn't want to get drunk, they could use their qi to expel the alcohol. If a cultivator got drunk, either they hadn't expelled the alcohol, or they were drinking spiritual wine. Wenrenhe sniffed the wine jar. It was the spiritual wine that he usually drank, made from the spiritual fruits that were growing in the back mountains. It couldn't be considered particularly good wine and wasn't strong enough to get drunk on. Yin Hanjiang's eyes were hazy with half his red robe having slipped off. He lazily raised his eyes to look at Wenrenhe, then he poured himself another cup of wine and gulped it down. "Haven't you switched to calling me Hanjiang by now? How come it's back to sect leader Yin?" "Hanjiang?" Wenrenhe repeated. He had never seen Yin Hanjiang like this before. The sect leader Yin he remembered was always dressed in all black and was silent as a shadow. Though Wenrenhe knew he was good looking, he was normally so reserved that he was easy to overlook. This Yin Hanjiang was dressed in scarlet, his hair was loose and fluttering in the breeze and had a vicious spark in his eyes. Were he in a crowd, his figure would instantly draw one's sight. From what Wenrenhe remembered, Yin Hanjiang typically never drank and only secretly stealing a sip when Wenrenhe wasn't looking. Wenrenhe never imagined he'd see him throwing back one cup after another. This jar and cup, Wenrenhe raised an eyebrow, faintly remembering that these were the ones he had given him after he caught him drinking wine. The Venerable One has drank from them. The corner of Yin Hanjiang's lips that was pressed against the edge of the empty cup, showed a slight smile. An odd feeling rose in Wenrenhe's heart. He looked at the unfamiliar Yin Hanjiang before him and found him so eye-catching compared to his previous self. "This Venerable One assumed you didn't like wine." Wenren he also sat down on Yin Hanjiang's left side. Things hadn't developed the way he had expected, but he didn't mind chatting with Yin Hanjiang for a bit. Right, I don't like wine. Yin Hanjiang looked toward his right and raised his cup towards empty air. I like the wine that my Venerable One has tasted. After he's taken a sip, I'm willing to drink it. Wenren he. Only now did he realize that every time Yin Hanjiang poured a cup, he first tipped it toward the empty air on his right side, spilling a drop, as if he was feeding it to someone. After offering it to empty air, he then turned the cup, placing the side that had faced the air against his lips and slowly enjoying the wine. Sect leader Yin, who are you giving the wine to? Wenren he sensed that something was wrong. What? Do you want some too? Yin Hanjiang looked toward Wenren he with hazy eyes. He lifted the wine jar, giving it a shake. Too bad there's no more. He held the jar in his arms, wiping away non-existent dust with his sleeves. Pressing its cold surface against his cheek, he blissfully closed his eyes. My Venerable One gave me this jar and cup, that he drank from. He raised the handkerchief clenched in one hand. This is the handkerchief my Venerable One once used to wipe his hands. It had Protector Shu's blood on it, but I washed it clean and kept it. Wenren he furrowed his brows. After a while, he finally remembered that Shu Yanyan had once thought he liked Bailey Qing Miao and tried to tempt him with her. Wenren he had nearly cracked her skull with his hand as a warning, with some her blood smeared on his fingertips. Yin Hanjiang, who was right behind him, handed over a handkerchief which Wenren he had tossed away casually after wiping his fingers. Yin Hanjiang rubbed his cheek with the handkerchief, a contented smile on his face. Finally, he carefully put the handkerchief, the wine jar, and the cup away into a storage space. The army-crushing spike was left carelessly by his side. The spike had been forged with Wenren he's blood and soul, so he instantly recognized it as the army-crushing sword. Is that your bonded weapon, sect leader Yin? He couldn't help asking. Wasn't it a sword? How come it looks like this now? If the Venerable One wants me to use the sword, I'll use the sword. If the Venerable One thinks I'm suited to being a sword cultivator, I'll be a sword cultivator. Yin Hanjiang held Wenren he's robe in his arms, his eyes blurred. If the Venerable One doesn't allow me to follow him in death, then I'll live on. Sect leader Yin, this Venerable One only made a suggestion. My ideas might not always suit you, and you don't need to follow me in everything. As Wenren he looked at Yin Hanjiang, he suddenly realized that he had never really seen this subordinate of his. The Yin Hanjiang he saw was an act in accordance to Wenren he's expectations. He thought he had expressed himself clearly, but Yin Hanjiang didn't even look at him. Instead, he reached out a hand toward empty air, as if stroking someone's face. He said in a low voice, "Does the Venerable One like Bailey Qing Miao? How about I send her to be with you?" This Venerable doesn't like her, Wenren he stated. Yin Hanjiang's gaze finally turned towards Wenren he. He reached out and grabbed for Wenren he's sleeve, but his hand passed through his body. Wenren he's current body was condensed from primordial chaos, so he couldn't be touched. This Venerable One. Wenren he wanted to explain his current condition, but Yin Hanjiang just said, "Fake." Yin Hanjiang's expression didn't change, as if he had experienced this 1,000 times already. He reached out toward his front, back, and right, grabbing air each time. He threw back his head in laughter. Fake, all fake. Only this is real. He clutched Wenren he's robe to his chest and curled up on the ground by the spiritual spring, then closed his eyes. He seemed to have fallen asleep. How many of me are you seeing? At this point, Wenren he generally understood Yin Hanjiang's condition. Yin Hanjiang didn't reply. He would speak to an illusion if he was lonely, but he mostly ignored them. He especially couldn't reveal his weakness in front of other people. Wenren he sat next to the sleeping Yin Hanjiang, thinking back to the ghost mask in abusive love affair. Considering that together with the sect leader Yin before him, he seemed to finally understand something. Yin Hanjiang hadn't deviated and lost control. For Wenren he had been suppressing his true nature from the start. After reading that book, he had kept telling Yin Hanjiang that what he needed wasn't an obedient subordinate but a companion who could fight alongside him. Ever since he had picked up that child and told him to practice the sword, Wenren he had been telling him what he thought was the best, but it hadn't been what Yin Hanjiang wanted. Wenren he thought that Yin Hanjiang was suited for being a sword cultivator, so Yin Hanjiang became a sword cultivator. Wenren he thought that Yin Hanjiang was his most loyal subordinate, so Yin Hanjiang adjusted his personality to one that would put Wenren he at ease. Wenren he thought that Yin Hanjiang would be able to take over Xian Yuan sect in his absence, so Yin Hanjiang had done his best to live up to his expectations. Every time Wenren he's notions contradicted with Yin Hanjiang's nature, he always chose Wenren he. The devil Venerable sat beside the spring, looking toward the full moon rising on the horizon. He took out a handful of water from his kinkan pouch using spiritual energy, letting it reflect the moon in the sky. This was Yin Hanjiang's favorite source of joy in his youth. After the Great Sect War, he had given it to Wenren he. It was as if a scene appeared in Wenren he's eyes. It was of a young Yin Hanjiang smiling contentedly while watching the empty reflection of the moon on the water. This Venerable One was wrong, Wenren he said quietly, putting away that handful of water. After taking in that child, he had raised him to be what he wanted him to be. He thought he had given him the best, but he had never considered whether they were things that Yin Hanjiang wanted. Heart demons didn't form overnight. At the very beginning, Wenren he had planted their seeds into Yin Hanjiang's heart. He brought out the red stone and clutched it in one hand. "I'll borrow this for a moment," he said quietly. With the stone in his hand, his body became solid and the robe that had been created from chaos energy vanished. With a flick of his fingers, he had the robe in Yin Hanjiang's arms fly onto his body. Then he sat by Yin Hanjiang's side, lightly stroking his hair. Huh! Yin Hanjiang's spiritual sense was sharp and he woke instantly. Upon discovering that the robe was gone, he became frantic, losing all his stubborn composure from before. He scrabbled around everywhere, looking for it. Wenren he let his sleeve brush against Yin Hanjiang's face. He grabbed the sleeve and said quietly, "Right here." Yin Hanjiang saw that the Wenren he before him was wearing his real robe. Grabbing his hand, he found that it was solid. The heart demons are already this strong. Yin Hanjiang shook his head in a daze. Though he believed it to be fake, he still held onto Wenren he's hand. "Sect leader Yin, this Venerable One is real. I've returned from the Sea of Blood," Wenren he said. "Right, the Venerable One has returned," Yin Hanjiang said lightly, not really believing. Wenren he didn't mind if Yin Hanjiang thought he was fake. Seizing this opportunity, he began to speak. The Wenren clan had been dedicated to the emperor and the common people for generations, yet they wound up executed down to a single man. Digging around in a mass grave, I dragged out one headless corpse after another. With each body I dug out, I hoped to find that it had a head and that the person was still alive, but I didn't find a single one. Ever since then, an obsession probably had taken root in my heart, a hope that even one member of the Wenren clan had survived. After many years passed, I believed that I had let go of this attachment and escaped the chaos of the mortal world to travel down the path of immortality without any connections to a family. But this obsession still remained deep within me. When I picked you up in a mass grave, my first act was to touch your neck. From that moment onward, I took you as a survivor of the Wenren clan and raised you to be a general. It was all my fault. It was my obsession that turned you into this." Wenren he pulled Yin Hanjiang into his lap. "From now, Yin Hanjiang need not live for Wenren he. You should use your own senses to decide. You don't need a mask and you don't need to pretend. Do the things that you want to do." Yin Hanjiang knew this was an inner demon, but the warm embrace, the gentle tone and the words he had never heard before led him to willingly indulge in it. "I want to take vengeance for my Venerable One," Yin Hanjiang said. I'm a ruthless person and might ruin the plan that my Venerable One has set. I have to be patient. I can't act out. You can act out, Wenren, he said. This Venerable One permits you. Whatever you want to do, I'll help you. I want to destroy everything you love and offer them to you, so they can accompany you down there. Can I? Yin Hanjiang lifted his head, looking expectantly at Wenren he. I don't like Bailey Qingmiao, so there's no need to burn her. How wonderful. Yin Hanjiang sighed. No wonder so many people are unable to escape the illusions of their inner demons, when it's so perfect. I'm not a heart demon. Yin Hanjiang didn't listen to him. He pursed his lips and after taking a deep breath, he said, what if this subordinate liked the Venerable One? Can I? End chapter. DeVe Venerable also wants to know. Chapter 58, Predetermined. Yin Hanjiang's words were a shock to Wenren he. What he remembered was that Yin Hanjiang had always been oblivious to love. Back when Wenzhao was lying to Bailey Qingmiao about Shu Yanyan, Wenren he had asked Yin Hanjiang, Protector Yin, would you believe something like this? Can love really make people so brainless? Yin Hanjiang had answered with, this subordinate believes anything that the Venerable One says, and hears not a word of what anyone else says. Wenren he had always believed that Yin Hanjiang was ignorant like him. Yet he had said he liked Wenren he. Was it the doings of his heart demons, or was it Yin Hanjiang's own thought? When Wenren he didn't respond for a long time, Yin Hanjiang looked displeased. He pushed Wenren he over with one hand and looked down at him with a fierce glare. A mere heart demon dares to defy me. Wenren he had never seen Yin Hanjiang being so unreasonable before. Sect leader Yin, I. Before he could finish speaking, Yin Hanjiang dipped his head and caught Wenren he's lips with his own. Yin Hanjiang's cold lips pressed against Wenren he's own, carrying the lingering taste of wine. Wenren he had never experienced something like this before in his life. He felt a tingling sensation spread throughout his body. His body was already formed from primordial chaos, but he couldn't summon his spiritual energy to push Yin Hanjiang away. Wenren he lost all sense of time, knowing only the cool softness against his lips. As he wondered why Yin Hanjiang's body was still so cold, the red-robed man had already let go of him and was sitting up shakily. Yin Hanjiang rubbed his temples, then splashed a handful of spring water on his face. What am I fighting with a heart demon for? He muttered to himself. He glanced sideways at Wenren he. His eyes were frosty with a cold smile at the corner of his lips, as if he was scoffing at himself. He stood up and while Wenren he was still in a daze, he yanked the robe off from him. Holding it lovingly in his arms, he walked away without a backward glance, leaving Wenren he alone. The red stone fell from his hand, causing Wenren he's body to return to that of primordial energy. He touched his lips with his fingers, feeling like the tingling had spread to his soul. No one would come to the back mountain, so Wenren he sat there stunned for a long time, until he finally remembered something. He picked up the stone and brought out Abusive Love Affair. Flipping it open, he reread the part when Bailey Qingmiao and Wenzhao met for the first time and Bailey Qingmiao bumped her Shixin's finger. She had felt a tingling sensation travel from her fingertip all the way to her heart, and her heart began to race wildly. Wenren he had thought this was the lingering effects of the lightning that had struck her. Only now did he realize that there really could be a tingling sensation when people touched. Wenren he plunged his hand into the spiritual spring. The spring water was far warmer than Yin Hanjiang's hands. During Bailey Qingmiao's conversation with Zhongli Qian and Yin Hanjiang, she had nearly been killed by Yin Hanjiang. Only with Zhongli Qian's advice did Yin Hanjiang suppress his murderous intent, and as he was leaving, he shot Bailey Qingmiao a vicious glare. Bailey Qingmiao was so terrified that she collapsed with a high fever. Zhongli Qian shooed Hall Master Shi away, so he wouldn't make her illness worse. He ordered Suhuai to feed her medicine, and after seeing her condition stabilized, he said to Suhuai, "Come with me to the spirit gathering array in the main hall. We still have to help your martial elder. There's never any rest with these two around. He told Bailey Qingmiao to rest and that Suhui would be back to take care of her tomorrow. Bailey Qingmiao sank into a deep sleep again until in the middle of the night when she suddenly felt a chill. Her eyes flew open and in the dim light, she saw a figure watching silently at her bedside. The last time she had been suddenly awoken like this, it was to see Yin Hanjiang waving a triangular spike in her face. This time, Bailey Qingmiao couldn't see the figure's face. Wrapping herself in her blanket, she said tremulously, "Who are you? What do you want?" "It's me." Wenren he lit the lamps within the room with a wave of his hand, revealing his face. "Senior Wenren!" Bailey Qingmiao exclaimed. "Are you alive, or am I dreaming?" "This venerable one is alive," Wenren he said. "I'm so glad. It's my that fault you fell into the sea of blood. I swore at that moment that if you were to survive, I'd be willing to serve you for the rest of my life and do anything you asked of me." Bailey Qingmiao began to sob in relief. She stumbled shakily out of bed and was about to kowtow to Wenren he. "No need." Wenren he stepped aside. He couldn't let Bailey Qingmiao lower her head to him. "This venerable one merely came here to ask something. Whatever you ask, I'll say everything I know. What does love that takes you unawares and before you know it, you're deep in its clutches, meant? I understand the literal meaning, so that's not what I'm asking for." He had spent a long time thinking in the back of the mountains, but his thoughts were in tangles. He didn't know if Yin Hanjiang's feelings were a delusion, and he didn't know how he should respond to him. He decided that he probably didn't understand romantic matters well enough, as he had never figured out what the third line meant. That must also be the reason why after he got Bailey Qingmiao and Zhongli Qian together for 30 years, they still only treated each other like siblings. He had never understood why Bailey Qingmiao was so obsessed with He Wenzhou, and he didn't know how to respond to Yin Hanjiang. What could Bailey Qingmiao say, besides the literal meaning? At this moment, she really wished she had Zhongli Qian's wisdom. "You don't know." Wenren he looked at Bailey Qingmiao. "Doesn't that exactly describe your feelings and He Wenzhou's? Not only are you deep in love's clutches but is deeply infatuated and unwilling to let go. Even after He Wenzhou took a wife, you still pined after him. After he let you be imprisoned in the back mountains and strung up over the sea of blood, you still want to die for him. This venerable one wants to know just what kind of a feeling this is. That can cause someone to..." He paused, thinking back to how Yin Hanjiang sat by the spiritual spring with his lips pressed to a wine cup and a robe in his lap. An odd pang shot through his heart. Can cause someone to lose their soul and cease to be themselves. Wenren he had thought that Bailey Qingmiao would have an answer for him, but she grabbed her hair and said, I don't understand either. All I know is that I love my Shikshan, and even after he's married, I still love him, but why? Before he was married, I loved him for being warm and considerate, for always secretly taking care of me. But now, he's already married yet he still longs after me, disrespecting both myself and Lushija, so why do I love him? I find this feeling despicable myself, so why do I love him? She slapped herself across the cheek while saying in disappointment, I even wanted to die for him. What was I thinking? Wenren he. Bailey Qingmiao seemed to be at her breaking point. She couldn't answer anything for him. The more Bailey Qingmiao thought about it, the more she felt that things were not quite right. Her fingers tangling her hair into a mess, she paced back and forth across the room as she spoke. It's odd. I feel like I've split into two, one half knowing rationally that I should let him go while the other still pines for him and even hoping that Lushija will die soon, so that we can be together. What's wrong with me? Senior, Walking up to Wenren he, she tried to grab his hand. Wenren he avoided her in time, but his sleeve brushed against her fingertips and passed through her hand. Bailey Qingmiao. Forget it, Wenren he said. Seeing as you're in a bad state yourself, this Venerable One seemed to have asked the wrong person. Stepping away from Bailey Qingmiao, Wenren he took out a red stone. I must borrow this for a few days, but by the time you need it, I will certainly return it to you. What is that? Bailey Qingmiao swallowed hard as she looked at the stone. She wanted it. She had never felt such a strong desire for an object before. It was as if it should be hers in the first place. This is the divine blood, Wenren he said. It can help this Venerable One stabilize chaos energy and cultivate a divine body sooner. Without it, this Venerable One is only a phantasm, who can be seen but not touched. This was the second safeguard that the primordial goddess had left behind for herself besides her divine nature. She had hidden it within the chaos energy of the Sea of Blood so that when Bailey Qingmiao became an immortal and was on the threshold of godhood, she would feel the calling of the divine blood. With the help of the blood which contained the essence of the primordial goddess, she would be able to successfully merge with her divine nature. In the original book, it was said that the instant Wenren he fell into the Sea of Blood, he had come into contact with the divine blood due to his fated connection with Bailey Qingmiao and realized everything the moment he touched it. Before his death, he tossed it to Bailey Qingmiao. When she caught it, Wenren he's karmic debt to Bailey Qingmiao was fully paid, and from then on, he had no more ties to her. In this life, just like in the book, Wenren he had found the divine blood the instant the Sea of Blood engulfed him. When he touched it, he finally understood how his fate was connected to Bailey Qingmiao. 300 years ago, the primordial goddess helped Wenren he to enter the path of slaughter. Thus, 300 years later, the now devil Venerable needed to retrieve the divine blood for Bailey Qingmiao. Everything one gets in life is predetermined. The supposed love he felt back then was only the machination of fate in order to ensure that Wenren he wouldn't be tempted to take the divine blood's power for himself. Wenren he had originally planned to give the divine blood to Bailey Qingmiao upon seeing her, and cut off his connection to the female lead right there and there. However, he needed the divine blood for the meanwhile in order to get Yin Hanjiang to believe that Wenren he was still alive as the other man struggled through his inner demons. How can I decide what happens to something so important? Bailey Qingmiao said, crushing down her desire toward it. Senior can use it however he wants. Thank you. Wenren he nodded to her. This Venerable One will do all in his power to help you obtain everything that belongs to you. Afterwards he vanished in a blur, extinguishing the lamps behind him. Bailey Qingmiao was still feverish. She sat on her bed, tugging at her messy hair a few times. Did that really happen, or was it a dream? After a short while, she laid down and passed out again. With the divine blood in hand, Wenren he returned to his room. He saw Yin Hanjiang had arranged his robe on one side of the bed, while he slept stiffly on the other side, not touching the opposite half of the bed at all. Cultivators usually rested in meditation and rarely needed to sleep. Yin Hanjiang seemed to be drunk as his face was slightly flushed. He slept cautiously on one side of Wenren he's bed and not willing to even move, as if he was a completely different person from the one who had boldly pushed down a heart demon in the shape of Wenren he earlier. Wenren he lightly leapt onto the bed. Laying on his side, he watched Yin Hanjiang's face as he slept. Sect leader. Yin Hanjiang, Wenren he said quietly. You have the right to love me. It's not my place to permit you. But as for me, how should I respond you? Neither refusal nor acceptance could be resolved with just a few light words. He had to treasure Yin Hanjiang's feelings and gave a response from his heart. Yin Hanjiang slept until late morning the next day. Upon waking up, he rubbed the space between his eyebrows and with a glance at Wenren he snatched back the robe. Is this yours to touch? He asked coldly. Wenren he. End chapter. Devil Venerable also wants to know. Chapter 59, Side by Side. It's a good thing Wenren he hadn't used the divine blood to become solid and was lying on the robe with his primordial chaos body. Otherwise, Yin Hanjiang yanking of the robes would have left the both of them speechless. It would have been an easy thing to let Yin Hanjiang know that this Wenren he was real. He just had to call over Zhongli Jian, Xu Yanyan, Qiu Kongxiu, and so on. Anyone could prove his existence, but could he really do that? Yin Hanjiang was a reserved person. He had hidden his own nature so much that he had to put on a mask before he could cut himself loose when he could no longer bear it. From the revisions of abusive love affair, he could see that Yin Hanjiang had never let his current state of being beset by his heart demons be noticed by either Zhongli Jian or Bailey Qingmiao. Aside from trying to kill Bailey Qingmiao, he hadn't revealed anything else. Even though his thoughts were confused, he remained unperturbed in front of other people and not showing any weaknesses. If that kind of person had everyone around him telling him that what he was seeing is not a heart demon, how would he react? Would he gladly accept it, or would he fall apart completely? Wenren he wasn't willing to take a chance and would be unable to accept such an outcome. If when he had first returned to the sect, he had directly entered the main hall and announced his return to everyone, so that it was known to all at the same time, Yin Hanjiang probably would have accepted it. But if he had done so, then Yin Hanjiang would have continued to hide everything in his heart. Heart demons that were affecting his mind so severely wouldn't just vanish because Wenren he had returned alive. Moreover, if Yin Hanjiang continued to suppress his true nature, it may destroy him someday. This way was still good. At least he could secretly observe Yin Hanjiang and understand his most loyal subordinate, the man he trusted the most in the world, in for him order to slowly resolve his heart demons. Wenren he had always been direct and had crushed all his problems with force in the past, so he had never felt helpless like this before. It felt as though he was using strength that was enough to lift a mountain just to pick up a needle and embroider a flower. His forehead was dripping with sweat, his fingers were trembling as he was terrified of damaging that flower covered with thorns. After Yin Hanjiang got up, he didn't spare another glance to Wenren he. There were countless Wenrenhees in his sight, all talking to him at the same time, so he ignored them as he had practiced to do. When he was alone, he would answer whichever one he wanted, but in front of other people, he needed to be the sect leader with the power to crush the righteous sects. Having sobered up, he used a spell to clear the scent of alcohol from his body and sat properly in front of the desk. Then he sent out several message talismans. The first was to Zhongli Jian, Hall Master Zhongli, after you fix up Protector Qiu, immediately give me a plan to eliminate the 8 righteous experts and He Wenzhao. If you don't have a satisfactory solution before my patience runs out, I'll act my own way. The second was to Xu Yanyan, Protector Xu, you've had contact with He Wenzhao. His weakness is women, so hurry up and come up with a way with Bailey Qingmiao to lure him out and make him sell out the blood demon. The third was for Wenren he. Yin Hanjiang only wrote it, without sending it. It had only one line. I've asked Sir Zhongli to be the main hall master. All is well in Xianyuan sect, so the Venerable One may meditate in peace. After completing it, Yin Hanjiang held it in his hand but didn't activate it. To send a message talisman, one needed to know the location of the recipient and alert their spiritual consciousness so that they could accept it. There was no way to send this talisman to Wenren he. I know, Wenren said earnestly as he sat across from Yin Hanjiang. You've done very well. Yin Hanjiang paid no heed to this phantasm who wouldn't even call himself Venerable One. After he finished everything, he left the room. After casting an illusion so that no one else could see him, Wenren he followed Yin Hanjiang out. Yin Hanjiang came to the main hall and took the register of message carriers. It was an organization created by Hall Master Yuan, so most of them were directly taking orders from him instead of Xianyuan sect. There was no way this register was complete either. Yin Hanjiang took the register and after messaging Hall Master Miao, he flew out of the main hall. He was probably going to clean out the ranks. Wenren he wanted to follow him, but he was worried about being detected by others. Moreover, he also had some preparations of his own to make. For now, they would have to act separately. He had no doubt that Yin Hanjiang would be able to root out the traitors within the message carriers and sort out Xianyuan sect's personnel. He couldn't help but worry though, and it was out of concern, not a matter of trust. Wenren he let out a sigh. If only he had a book with Yin Hanjiang as the protagonist, so he could keep track of what he was doing. When Yin Hanjiang left, Wenren he immediately came to the spirit gathering array in the main hall. The only person who could help him plan at this time was Zhongli Qian. Zhongli Qian had just finished healing Qiu Kongxiu when he received Yin Hanjiang's message. He quickly picked through the pile of jade slips, selecting the important ones to read. However smart he was, he would need knowledge in order to take action. The vital question was how he could satisfy Yin Hanjiang while diverting him from his plans to wreak havoc in the cultivation world. While he was researching, Zhongli Qian suddenly felt a gust of wind pass by. After having sealed his sight for 30 years, his spiritual sense had become even sharper. Putting down the jade slip, he released his spiritual cognition but didn't sense anyone. Instead, the spiritual energy in the room seemed to have gotten several times thicker. No, it wasn't spiritual energy. It wasn't even immortal energy. Being a Mahayana cultivator and having spent time with the wandering immortal, Qiu Kongxiu, Zhongli Qian had a good understanding of immortal energy. Yet the presence in the room was something stronger. Which honored person is this? Zhongli Qian asked. The crane-haired wanderer lives up to his name. This venerable one has hidden himself from even the sharpest sight, yet you still found me. Wenren he revealed himself, allowing Zhongli Qian's spiritual cognition to instantly recognize him. Zhongli Qian let out a long breath, then he saluted towards him and said, Lord Wenren, he has managed to return from the brink. I'm not certain whether to congratulate you on surviving or rising in power. Have you told sect leader Yin of your return? He continued. He nearly wrecked the Shangqing sect for you. He'll certainly be overjoyed to know you're safe. First, he praised Wenren he, then he immediately told him in a roundabout way to hurry up and go to Yin Hanjiang, as afterwards in a few days, he'll start slaughtering people. I know, Wenren he said. This venerable one came here to discuss something with Hall Master Zhongli. Hearing Wenren he call him a Hall Master, Zhongli Qian's expression froze. I'm really not qualified to be a Hall Master. If Yin Hanjiang says you're qualified, then you're qualified, Wenren he said, interrupting him. This venerable one also has a task for you, and if you complete it, I can have the tracking curse and heart-linking parasite removed. Zhongli Qian. He had thought that when Wenren he returned, he would take charge of the situation, Yin Hanjiang's obsession for revenge would subside and peace would return to the cultivation world. Then, after the blood demon was defeated and Bailey Qingmiao was freed from her infatuation, Zhongli Qian could travel the world freely, spreading his Dao. But now? Oh well, most things in life didn't go the way one want. Cultivation was to open one's mind. Adjusting his outlook, Zhongli Qian said, as even-tempered as always. What orders does sect master have? 2 things. First, gather up all information you can find on heart demons and find a healer who can treat them. Second, cooperate fully with Yin Hanjiang. Help him keep control of Xianyuan sect and let him do whatever he wishes. Don't mind this venerable one's previous plans. Wenren he knew that Zhongli Qian wouldn't have overlooked Yin Hanjiang's current condition. He might have already figured it out and was just keeping the information to himself. Instead of trying to deceive Zhongli Qian, it was better to get him on his side. Wenren he could act more easily in the shadows with Zhongli Qian as cover, and slowly help Yin Hanjiang. Sect Master, do you know what sect leader Yin's original plan was? Zhongli Qian asked carefully. He wanted to use force to unify the cultivation world, killing anyone who defies Xianyuan sect and eliminate the sects that participated in the attack against you. Wenren he really hadn't been aware, as the book only said Yin Hanjiang wanted to kill He Wenzhao. After some thought, he chuckled. He does have ambition. There was no admonition in his tone, and even a hint of praise. Zhongli Qian. He daringly circled Wenren with a thread of spiritual cognition, carefully examining his current state, and came upon a guess. Has Sect Master already been to see Yin Hanjiang? Did he say something to you? Wenren hesitated for a moment. Looking carefully at Zhongli Qian, he saw the certainty on his face, as if he had seen through everything. You truly are perceptive, he said. However, this Venerable One hopes you won't keep guessing. Even if you guess right, there's no need to say it. This Venerable One has a handle on everything. All you need to do is act for me in secret, and not let anyone know that I've returned. But if sect leader Yin is determined to bring suffering to the people, then I must stop him. Seeing Wenren had decided to stand with Yin Hanjiang in everything, Zhongli Qian made his own stance clear. He won't, Wenren spoke with certainty. Yin Hanjiang was the child he had raised. Even if he was a bit gloomy and self-loathing, he was a good child. What if, though? Zhongli Qian insisted. What if? After a moment of thought, Wenren answered, then Hall Master Zhongli may lead the entire cultivation world in alliance against Yin Hanjiang. This Venerable One will stand side by side with him. This. Zhongli Qian shook his head with a helpless smile. Bailey Qingmiao ought to see for herself how the sect master treats sect leader Yin. What do you mean? Wenren looked at him in confusion. Nothing in particular. When the sect master wants to know, he'll understand it soon. How mysterious. It made no sense. Wenren told Zhongli Qian to work on his tasks, and the main hall master, who was already buried to his neck in work, had to delegate some responsibilities. He messaged Protector Shu and pretended that Bailey Qingmiao was still seeking death. He said that he feared that heart demons would arise within her and asked Protector Shu to find an expert healer. Then he asked Hall Master Shi, who cultivated the 7 human sufferings, to find books regarding resentment and desire, and had Hall Master Ruan to look for methods to treat heart demons. At the same time, he continued to quickly memorize the information in the jade slips, so that by the time Yin Hanjiang returned covered in blood, Zhongli Qian already knew the Xianyuan sect like the back of his hand. Yin Hanjiang tossed the list of message carriers who could still be trusted at Zhongli Qian for him to sort out, then he headed for the spiritual spring to wash off the blood. Seeing that he had no reservations toward him, Wenren also entered the spring with him. Sitting at one side, he spoke. You've brought the message carriers under control after only 1 day. I'm quite impressed. Wenren assumed he would be ignored like before, but Yin Hanjiang suddenly looked at him and ordered coldly, come here. Me. Wenren wasn't sure which heart demon Yin Hanjiang was talking to. After all, he couldn't see what Yin Hanjiang was seeing. Yes, you, Yin Hanjiang said. The one that was least like the Venerable One. End chapter.